All right, I got everything working here. I am Debbie Potts and doing a series, mini videos, trying to break up the topics of how to fuel and train to perform your best in daily life, but really focusing today on specific endurance events. Previously, I talked about training low, racing high, and a lot of questions I keep getting on how many carbs are too low to have. And this is where I really want people to do the metabolism testing with someone as myself. Come for a little vacay in Del Mar, Solana Beach, and North San Diego. We'll get your test and then follow up on a Zoom call. So you can come for a nice weekend or a couple days during the week and really figure out what is best for you, how you metabolize fat. If you are metabolically flexible, which means you're able to switch from fat to carbohydrates, how large is your zone two? Because a lot of people do not train in zone two, they're often in zone three. And so we want to match your fueling and your training and figure out, do you need carbs? Yes, women might need more carbohydrates. It gets very confusing out there for all of us when we listen as females to Stacy Sims. I had Dr. Mickey on the show a few months ago. I've had Peter Defty a few times. We've talked to Aaron from Endure IQ, one of the coaches that works with Dr. Dan Plews. We've talked a ton about this information. If you want to go back into previous videos on Coach Debbie Potts' YouTube channel. Now, carbohydrates are what we're looking at from real food. I think what gets confusing is how much to have as pre-workout if you're doing a more anaerobic workout that we hate. Now I'm supposed to not say aerobic versus anaerobic, that you're working out in a intensity that is going to be more glycogen depleting. That's going to change versus I'm doing a workout that's more fat burning zone one and zone two. But that goes back to you don't even know what your true zone two is and where your metabolic crossover point is, where your fat decreases and your carb usage goes up. That's what's called the ventilatory threshold one. So we want to identify at what heart rate pace will change, at what heart rate right now, and retest every 2 3 months, are you burning the most fat? Training there. And the goal, if you listen to Phil Maffetone, we talked years ago. I've had this podcast for 12 years. There's 550 episodes to go back and listen to when we called it Fat. What was the old podcast? Fit, Fat, Fast. If you are burning a lot of fat, you don't need a lot of carbohydrates. Stacy Sims talks about having just 20 grams of carbs before your workout. So we want to look at each person as the individual, is my point. Nutrient timing, having those nature's carbs in and around the workout. If you're going a longer duration, the fuel plan is going to be different, but it depends on you. And my husband Neil and I worked out together on a long bike ride. I went for a 3 hour ride Saturday and a 3 hour ride Sunday, and I did some pickups because there's hills, so my heart rate was burning more glycogen at that intensity. And I just had a total of one bar, a layered superfood protein bar that has mushroom adaptogens, and it has 20 grams total. So I had 10 grams of carbs and another 10 grams. And then in my water bottle, I just had electrolytes, and actually I tried some beets from nitric oxide production supplement I had. So, anyways, we want to match your fueling and training. This is what I do with clients and try to figure it out. Now, we look at the chart that I love to share with people from Endure IQ. Again, I would tweak it for a female over a male. And again, you don't know where you're burning, what fuel you're burning unless we do this metabolism testing. And if you listen to my previous videos on what even the type of metabolism, how you're working on your fat and carbohydrate metabolism, figure out your heart zones based on that data. A lot of people are getting tests done and they're doing still percentage of their VO2 max are how they're finding their 5 heart rate zones. We are identifying your 5 training zones where you are burning fat. So listen to my interview with Joe Friel. He is amazing human. I email him questions all the time and he responds to me. And I was talking to him about this. So if you have an option, test your metabolism and not gas. If you don't, you can do lactate acid test. If you can't do that, you can do a maffetone max aerobic function heart rate that we've talked about for 20 years. So this chart is from Endure IQ, and S Fuels is a fuel source based on Dr. Dan Plews, the founder of Endure IQ, and he's on the board of S Fuels, so they have great fuel options based on training zones. Now, if you are doing a training session, say here for endurance, before an hour beforehand, this is 4 to 24 hours before you do endurance training, you're doing early stages of training to late stages. It talks about how to fuel. Now, so this is a great chart, but again, it's a template. If you're hungry, eat. If you feel flat, eat. Women, based on your menstrual cycle, perimenopause, postmenopause, we may need to adjust more. My husband needs more carbs than I do. Once I'm working out, maybe I need a meal beforehand and then I don't eat at all, or during a ride, I have something, as I said, the Laird's bar. So it depends on how many calories you're burning and what you're burning from fat and carbs. Women, we're better slow twitch, fat burning machines than I think men are sometimes, but it depends on how you've been training. So it's not one size fits all approach for a female and one size fits all for a male. Okay, so the chart again, lower tempo, IM. So if we're looking at pre, the day before, you're having kind of a lower carb, your healthy fats, you're getting the protein in. During that workout or before the workout, I'll say protein, healthy fats, protein, healthy fats. But see, the carbs are added into a pre-meal when you start to up to zone 3. If you're doing threshold, top is zone, bottom is zone 4. Zone top of zone 4 is a VO2 max workout, the 4 minutes. And again, we don't say aerobic versus anaerobic, but you're working at a higher intensity where you're burning mostly carbohydrates. During the workout, here you go. During early stages of training, when I'm doing endurance training, if you are doing your true zone 2, where you're burning the most fat, you don't need, if you are efficient at burning fat, you don't need to eat that many carbohydrates. After you've been going, say, 120 minutes into your workout, or 90 minutes if you're going a little harder, you may feel you need something. Again, listen to your body. Don't go by this saying, I have to wait until 120 minutes to eat, but I've been hungry for an hour. Okay, that's BS. You need to listen and learn how to listen to your body and honor your body needs fuel. If I didn't eat a lot the day before, I might have to eat more on my bike ride. Because a lot of times Fridays I get busy, I'm staying in Solana Beach, I'm going for master swimming, and then we tend to wait and have dinner or have lunch or maybe not dinner. So it just gets to be busy because I'm not at home and my schedule might be different eating. And so I'll find myself need to eat more on a Saturday long bike ride than I would if I was at home all Friday and ate when I wanted to eat. So the answer always is, it depends. Now, you'll see that during that training, if you're doing a long training session, carbohydrates after 120 minutes, carbohydrates after 90 minutes, upper tempo work after 60 minutes. Now, what does that even mean? Well, that's S Fuels Train. I love their new Zone 2 product. Doesn't have a lot of carbohydrates, but I like to have a bar, and I use Laird's bars, the blueberry one that's not made with almonds, because I'm trying to limit phytates, and almonds are something I'm trying to limit. And the sunflower nut butter bar is handy for me. I can just eat half of it. And that's what works for me. Neil has a whole bar. I can't eat a whole bar at once. It's just too much all at once. So I like to break it up. Again, you got to individualize this information. Post-workout, you can see the zone 2, I'm burning more fat, burning more fat. The post-workout, you're having protein. Women, if you listen to some other episodes, it's not just 20, 30 grams. The older we get, we need to hit 40 grams. And Stacy Sims even said this too, who's about protein, muscle protein synthesis. But to stimulate that muscle repair, we don't get the same benefit as we're older compared to our younger selves. To get 20, 30 grams, now we need 40, 50 grams post-workout. I don't always do shakes. Shakes are easy way. I'm trying to do what I'll go over the body health companies, perfect aminos, and then have real food. Like when I'm ready, maybe shower, you're heating up some meat, or maybe you have barbecue or something. Get your protein in. Real food sources, animal based, ideally. Plant based is not the same nutrient density, and it's not the same essential amino acids to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So listen to my other episodes on that. Now, carbohydrates you'll put in when you start to even do, I think, this upper tempo, you're burning some carbs. So post workout, I would add carbohydrates in when you're going into zone 3. So this upper tempo should have some carbs in it and protein based on what I've learned. Now, the goal of endurance is increased fat oxidation, sustained intensity when you're starting to add in lower tempo, which is more the top of your zone 2, increased fat oxidation, sustained intensity. That's going to be the bottom of zone 3. And maybe sustained intensity is top of zone 3. Maybe you're doing 20-minute pieces. And then VO2 max is zone 4. And then we've got top of zone 4. So that's kind of what I'd correlate that with. So that's a great chart you can find on S Fuels, or actually, this is from Endure IQ. Okay, so something I wanted to talk about, and I wrote a blog, and I want to do more mini audio podcasts, but you need to realize not all protein is equal. As we get older and you're breaking your workouts you're doing are breaking down muscle. You get to be in a catabolic state. As females get older, or estrogen's lower, we need to work harder to repair from that catabolic state. We need to be more anabolic. So if you look at this chart from Perfect Aminos, one, I already mentioned research showing that we need 40, 50 grams post-workout of protein, say 40 grams. But where is that coming from? If you're still taking branch chain amino acids, throw them away. Perfect aminos or Keon aminos have a complete amino acid, essential amino acids. Whole eggs, which I find a lot of people are reactive to eggs. So maybe you're not the type that can do 5 eggs in a meal. Some people, as myself, don't always do well with eggs. Meat, poultry, fish. I would put that up with eggs. That's 32% broken down to build protein. Whey, soy, nuts, only 18%. So we need to look at this chart and keep this in mind when we are creating our meal plan as aging athletes. If you are trying to change your body composition and build muscle or prevent losing muscle, if you feel soft and mushy and you don't feel like you're getting those muscles, as like my legs, I need my thighs need to more muscular and I can't get them to activate. How your strength training is going to make them stronger. Plus, we need to stimulate that muscle protein synthesis with the right type of protein. Great solution is Perfect Aminos. They have the tablets, which are coated, easy to get down, but you have to take 5 of them. Keon Aminos, you have to take 7 capsules. You can do the powdered version. I'm not a big fan of all the sweetness, as you know. The stevia that's used in Perfect Aminos is a different type of stevia that other companies hopefully will start using more. It doesn't give me a headache. So Sean Wells was teaching me that there's different types of stevia. Ideally, nothing has stevia or monk fruit in it, but I guess aminos taste like crap if you don't have a sweetener to it, and no one will even buy them. So all these companies have sweeteners. So read your ingredients, because a lot of products I'm finding, if you read the ingredient list, have more than one source of sweetener. So I try to avoid any of those. Okay, so back to training low. This is a few years old, but I think the benefit of having healthy fats, having more sweet potatoes, yams, white rice that's cooked and cooled, or more what's called safe starches or resistant carbs. As you train low and then you start to add in those little more carbohydrates in and around your workout and pre-racing, the muscles soak it up and the performance improves. So a lot of information, we kind of been confused last 5 years. How much keto should you get in? How much fat? I think people forgot about protein. So when I say keto is out, someone said, I mean more keto. Carnivore is more it. Keto got to be, I think the food industry took it over and a lot of crap food. So I don't like the word keto, even I don't think people can ruin carnivore, but eating real food, nutrient dense, it doesn't, the single food ingredient list is the easiest way to think about it. And then your carbohydrates, if you are metabolically healthy, if we see you're burning fat in zone two, we feel you're good at your 10-minute resting metabolism test that I do shows you're burning fat at an optimal range and your metabolism is in optimal range and your blood chemistry, insulin, A1C, what else do I look at? Triglycerides, all these other markers we look at. Are you healthy? And we want to look at your genetics as this PPAR gene can be a factor as well if you're doing too much saturated fat. So I did my clarity report, which you can order for $297 through me if you want to get it done. Look at your genetics and look at your lab work together because I need to avoid too much saturated fat. And my APOB level went down this past time because I lowered my amount of bacon fat, saturated fat as much as I was. So point of this is that we train lower and add in those carbs in and around the workouts. Trying to go over that. Now, Dr. Dan Plews in your IQ program, his suggestion is pre-training. So first meal pre-training is the most important. What you eat influences on your fat metabolism and how you adapt to that training as fuel is not available. If you are doing fasted exercise, which isn't advised so much now because it doesn't show in signs of any improvement or really changes. So there's not a big benefit from doing fasted exercise, not eating at all before training as we thought, but it's not going to help you burn more calories and it might impact your performance. What I do is add a coffee with some heavy cream and maybe some people do MCT oil, or I've been doing Laird's creamer because it adds a little calories in it. So we're not so strict on this black coffee or tea only for fast exercise, but calories before training, if you want to have fasted or not fasted, that's something we discuss. Now, chart again, S Fuels made a few years ago. They updated this. You can find if you're more of a low carb athlete, which means it's not really low carb. That's why I changed the name of this podcast because I don't like the word low carb, what people started thinking. Doesn't mean zero carb. 150 grams a day is still a lot. And people that are not athletes should be around 100 grams of carbs. I've heard 100, 130 grams are what normal people need, and people metabolically unhealthy, more 50 grams a day. So athletes saying low carb athlete, 50 to 150 grams a day, is it really low? It's kind of what we should be. And higher carb diet is 150 grams or higher. And it depends on your day-to-day activity and your intensity of your workouts, which a lot of people do too much carb burning workouts that you need to look at matching your fueling with your training intensity. All right. One thing I do like from S Fuels, I tried their Prime, which I need to order more, but it's caffeine from green tea. It had a lot of B vitamins and L-carnitine and really helped pre-workout. It's a pretty good one. So I just threw this in. They have a nice one. So you can save on S Fuels 20%. I think it's a discount code we usually get. With my code, I've been swapping everything to my new code, Coach Debbie Potts. So let me know. You should get a discount on S Fuels and their S Fuels. As well as ketone IQ, I like to take before workout, over 2 hours, take a workout shot during the workout, and then afterwards. And they have new gel packs. That's pretty cool. I've been trying ketone shot on a busy work day for brain health focus, and it's really kind of crazy feeling. No sugar, no caffeine. It's just ketones that your brain will use. It helps glycogen sparing for workouts. And some interesting studies. I just listened to a podcast, Metabolic Health Summit, Metabolic Link, I think is the name of the podcast. And they were talking about, Dr. Volek was talking about some studies for muscle and ketones. So on the ketones, again, we have a Coach Debbie Potts discount code, but the dosage, if you're 150 pounds or less, just have one shot 30 to 60 minutes before exercise. For extended exercise, take additional serving every 2 hours. That's a great option. So you're using ketones as an additional source of fuel than just glucose alone and doesn't contribute to sugar crashes or insulin spikes. So you don't have to be, you're not trying to be in ketosis. You're just letting your body have an alternative fuel. So I think of it as so the muscles can use the glycogen and my brain can use the ketone. So we're not fighting using up all the glucose if you're doing more intense or longer exercise. So research studies show that 2% increase in endurance after consuming ketones, which may improve performance. Now, if you watch Lance Armstrong and the Tour de France, they've really been promoting ketone IQ, and a lot of the athletes you'll see during Tour de France help their brain focus, I think, is a point of ketone IQ when you're doing the long bike rides. Interesting. All right, so let's go into a little more matching the fueling and training, some tips. Top athletes took in some sorts of carbohydrates. So does it mean zero carbs? If you are efficient at burning fat, you can look at the other video on how to become more a fat burner. That's a process you want to do off season. And then your training will be more of that zone 2 training. And then you're racing more, whatever distance of race, will figure out your intensity. But everyone's unique. So we want to test and look at your fuel usage at what heart rate. And then race day, we can look at how many calories you're burning at estimate at that heart rate and what is your percentage of fat, carbohydrates, and how much we need to calculate for supplementing or fueling during training or racing. Lack of carb intake while racing can decrease performance. So saying zero carbs is not ideal if you want to race. We want to look at your fat oxidation values on your metabolism test and really trying to avoid that stress. So a lot of people go to more of a low carb approach as athletes, doing endurance athletes, because the excessive carb intake can cause some gut issues and low max fat oxidation rates. You're burning a lot more carbohydrates if your zone 2 is really low and you're training in zone 3, burning mostly carbohydrates. And you're going to probably have more stress and more catabolism in your body and more stress on your gut. So training low is an important part of GI stress and less oxidative stress on your body. And you'll have faster recovery. So if you are tapering for a race day, that's just back in the day, a picture of me when I was training and racing with Mark Allen's team. So for tapering a race, you can look at this. Excuse me, when you're efficient at burning fat, you can train and then race at higher levels. You don't need as many carbohydrates per hour as someone that is not efficient fat burning. Again, you're just guessing unless you do my metabolism testing. So once you are efficient at burning fat, and then you start to go to your race pace, you'll be burning a little more carbohydrates if you're racing. If you're just doing a race to finish, I wouldn't even bother doing this. Just keep your 100, 130 grams a day. If you listen to my sweet spot, how to find that podcast with information from Endure IQ, the sweet spot, you'll find out how many carbs during your training season do you need a day. And that might vary for women based on their cycle. And on rest days, you don't need as many carbs, right? It can go maybe 50 grams. If you're doing more anaerobic workouts, you might have higher carb days than others. So it's going to rotate. Now, say you've been averaging 100, 130 grams of carbohydrates from nature, good quality stuff. When you get 3 days up before a race, Dan Plews, I don't know if the studies are men and women, so we need to, individualize it again. So say my race is Sunday. On Thursday, I'm going to add in extra carbs in that day. So this says 50 grams in the evening. I don't want to have so much at once. I'm going to raise my glucose up too high. Maybe a little bit more in each meal and spread it out. But 50 grams. And then 2 days before the race, I add a little bit more than one day. So I'm up to 200 grams on the Friday, and then 200 grams on the Saturday, and then the race is on Sunday. Again, it's not eating flour, legumes, improperly prepared anti-nutrient foods. It's getting good quality foods as resistant starches, cooked and cooled rice if you can, pasta, no. Maybe you're having some sweet potatoes, or Neil makes these little potatoes and smashes them and makes them into crispy potatoes with good healthy fats are so good, but having that with the protein and then maybe your healthy fats, olive oil or butter, grass-fed butter. Now, adding in those carbohydrates, we talk about train low, race high method. You train your gut for race day, depends on your race goal. So how many calories do you need per hour? People as Dr. Dan Plews, he's racing hard the whole entire Ironman. So he's going to be burning a ton of calories. Now, when I raced, I was doing low carb my last few years racing, and I could just do limited calories. And if I ate too much because my blood's in my legs and arms, I would throw up, which is why I switched to more of this lower carb approach early on in my career. Females, and this is how we can kind of guess from a test, but 250 calories to 400 an hour. And then on the run, you're burning probably more calories, but you probably can't take in as much. It's easier on the bike. So the bike, I always think we're kind of giving energy for the run, especially if you're doing Ironman or half Ironman. So long training workouts, minimal fuel because you're doing more zone 1, 2, if you're doing it correctly. No fuel needed for workouts less than an hour. Those are some guidelines from S Fuels or EndureIQ. So before the race, we have 3 weeks to 1 week. We start to taper down, depending if you're doing a half or a full Ironman, or maybe you're just doing a marathon, not just, but if you're doing a marathon, it'll be different. But the last long run, for example, would be 3 weeks out, and then we break it down. So training volume decreases 50%. We keep the intensity, but we're dropping the workout volume. And then we're testing the fuel sessions and key training sessions as you're doing, say, your ride, you're doing that 3 weeks before every week. Maybe you're doing race pace intervals and you're adding in your fuel and testing everything out. So nothing's new on race day. When I did EndureIQ program, this is Dan Plew's schedule he did a few years ago before an Ironman. Though I find that taking a rest day, especially as you're older, we need more recovery time. So say the rest day would be Tuesday and Thursday, and then we'd always do Wednesday and Friday with Mark Allen. And then Saturday would be a mini swim, bike, run session, and then you race. Yeah, so that'd be like that. So maybe I would do Saturday race day, it'd be swim, bike, run, mini thing on Friday, as this says. And then Tuesday, Thursday would just be a swim, and then a Monday, Wednesday bike. And that Sunday is usually Ironman in Hawaii Ironman. It would be the Ironman swim course. So it's kind of looking at you as individual. Don't follow someone else's plan. We need to take it as an example and work it out that's best for you. Because for me, doing that's way too much before a race. My body needs rest and recovery, especially now that I'm older. I would make sure I'm taking those 2 days to just rest, get a massage, do more foam roller work, get some ART, really take care of myself, and then be ready on race day to go hard. So tapering race day tips, just go over its reduction, training load with maximum intensity. Increase the daily carb intake up to 200 grams. If you're a low carb athlete, 2.5 days before the event, you start that. Race day morning, avoid all foods that spike insulin and inhibit fat burning, as a super starch drink, as you can, or Vitargo, or S Fuels. What's the other one? There's some other ones out there, I think, that are super starch, just to top off your liver glycogen stores, but not spiking up glucose that will increase insulin. Because insulin, remember, is released from the pancreas to lower your blood sugar. So we want to keep that blood sugar level and just have something that's a slow release, just to top off the muscle and liver glycogen. But we're looking at that overnight, your glycogen stores might be a little lower, so we just want to top off everything. Just like going to the gas station before you go on a road trip. I might just have a little bit of gas, use up a quarter tank on, but I just want to top it off before I get on the road. So racing with some carbs when you're competitive and over zone 1, zone 2, a long distance training day. So aim for, again, this is Dan Plu's example, but let me move my Zoom thing, 50 to 60 grams an hour might be a lot for some people. 20 gram, that's if you're racing. Say you're in zone 3, burning through a ton of carbohydrates and you're burning a ton of calories. That's what this example of Dan Plu's, he's racing, working hard. So it depends on your fitness test, what your fat oxidation rate is and what heart rate, what intensity, and what fuel source you're burning and how many calories. So we want to look at that data, and then it's not going to be 100% because you're on the road. Your real life racing is different than in a lap on a treadmill or a bike. So aiming for, say, 20 grams every 20 minutes is a good example. I'm not going to take in 60 grams at once, but just having a small dose. Amy, if you're smaller, that might be 40 grams. So we have to look at you. Okay, so again, look at S Fuels as great handout. So racing day fuel plan, work on this as an individual. Depends if you are fat adapted. We worked on that off season. If you're a carb burner, we don't know unless we test, but you can use Lumen day to day to figure out, are you burning fat or carbohydrates before your workouts? Are you metabolically flexible? Because you definitely, why I got into this when I first started racing in 2001, I was trying to do what everyone told me to do for fueling, and I would always get just liquid belly and throw up on the bike ride because I was trying to do what everyone used to tell us, take this many calories an hour. So I was trying all these different high calorie fuels in a bottle and then taking all these Hammer Nutrition amino acids every hour and the Race Cap Supreme and Endurolite. So one day, I remember Ironman Canada, Penticton, I just threw up everything because my body was working. My muscles and my blood was in my muscles and my legs and my arms, not in my belly. So if you are more efficient at burning fat and you're able to race where you're burning mostly fat, then you won't have those GI issues as much. That's kind of the main motivator that a lot of us switch to this. I don't have to eat as much if I'm burning those big, slow burning dirt flame logs. If I can go faster and faster and faster and beat people while I'm burning fat, that's a goal. If I'm doing a long race and I'm burning carbs, I'm going to have to keep eating because I'm burning kindling. I keep having to put wood on the fire. So we need to look at what your goals are, what your purpose is, and more. Pre-race fueling, again, we overnight will deplete the muscle, not so much, but more the liver glycogen gets depleted while we're sleeping. So not so much the liver, but in the morning we can top it off. And what to eat impacts our performance. So if we keep that normal glucose level pre-race meal, so we don't shut down fat metabolism, we don't want to increase glucose and insulin. The first hour of exercise, burning glycogen fuel, the burning beginning of the race, we want to avoid, which I think you're going to burn, of course, some glycogen, especially if you're swimming for triathlon, you're going to be going hard. You might be more glycogen burning, but waiting till you eat those glycogens, or what am I trying to say? Carbohydrate foods once you start racing. So the suggestion, as Dan Plews is in New Zealand, his example is porridge, which I don't know many people in North America that do porridge. So maybe if you're from New Zealand, Australia, or the UK, you're going to have your carbs in and around the workouts once you start racing. It'd be more a little bit pre-swim, a slow release starch as 2 scoops in your water bottle if you can. And then you're having a porridge that's easy to digest. I'm not going to have steak or some meat before a workout because that'll just be sitting there, right? It takes me hours to break down protein from animals. So that's why I eat protein in my meals day to day, because it keeps me full and satiated because it takes a long time to break down and I'm getting those amino acids. Now, if I'm working out, I'm going for the quick and easy to digest food. I'm not going to have, as I said, animal-based meat before a workout. Doesn't work for me. So pre-swim, maybe you have chia seed pudding or a drink. I usually just would do a drink as you can and a bar and just eat it a little bit at once because your stomach's usually a little nervous, so you might not be able to digest anyways. So that's pre-swim. Post-swim, you have your first dose. You're getting that 20 grams of carbs in there. And then you're biking, you're trying to get 20 grams of carbs per hour. Now, when I go to swim and I'm getting ready for a bike, I have upset stomach when I'm racing. My body just went from swimming, you're standing, you're rushing, your body's like in fight or flight. I can't take in food, but maybe something in a drink. But you're rushing, getting on your bike if you're racing as I was. And then on the bike, you're doing what works for you. So maybe it's 20 grams, 30 grams an hour every 30 minutes to 60 grams maximum per hour. That's going to be where we need to individualize it. Because this is Dan Plu's example. Remember, who wins his age group or wins top age group overall in New Zealand and Ironman Hawaii. He won top age grouper a few years ago. So running, you might have a little more carbs because you're running. I find in a race, a half Ironman or marathon, I can take in a little more glucose. I might have some flat Coca-Cola that I'll never ever have, but in a race, the last few miles, it really helps with that caffeine and quick sugar. You'll be surprised. You say no, I'll never have flat Coke, but it's pretty amazing. And Ironman's having that soup broth is salty. That's another good backup plan. Okay, so race day morning. Again, we went over some options there. This is Endure IQ. Get rid of all these bullets. I thought I fixed that up. But solution, low glycemic, spike-free food. So I like to have there's a great grain-free option from S Fuels you could make and have it ready pre-workout, having something that doesn't shut down fat oxidation. Anything else there? Again, racing plans can be different per person. That's Dan's plan. And then front bottle on the bike is bento box, electrolytes, bars and pieces. Maybe we're doing some ketone esters. S Fuels has their race fuel zone 4 fuel now. Avoiding fructose. No more than 60 grams an hour, or you may be experiencing GI discomfort. Test your fat oxidation rates of 1 gram fat per minute. You got to figure out what it is for you. So pace race recovery plan, real quick. S Fuels has some great information on their website. Recovery, really important to have recovery. A lot of people just jump back the next day, especially if you didn't have your ideal race. You start making up for it and try to run and just go right into it. You're going to mess yourself up over time. It's just a matter of when. So you might feel great now, but your cortisol's up, your inflammatory markers are higher, you're in more of a sympathetic dominance phase, you're more risk for injuries, you have more oxidative stress. Your immune system is going to be decreased. Your gut's going to have less integrity, so it's more leaky gut issues. Parasympathetic nervous system is not functioning. Your heart rate variability is dropping. So we want to look at recovery. So again, what goes up, what goes down? Muscle breakdown, parasympathetic tone, HRV. Okay, so what can you do post-workout? We can look at whey protein. I would do perfect aminos, vitamin C, L-glutamine. I really like S Fuels recovery shake because it has L-glutamine and whey protein isolate in it. So it's quick and easy to digest. Maybe put some frozen berries in it. Avoiding high sugar and refined carbohydrates. Okay, so more information on my website, multiple sources on S Fuels, and I have lots of ebooks that are on my book or on my website. So I would love for you to do a little more in-depth work if you're trying to figure out what is best for you. My coaching package is more of health investigation and look at the whole you. So I have people order and pay for their own labs as a blood comprehensive panel. And then we're looking at metabolic health, looking at your insulin, triglycerides, ALT and the AST, your CRP levels, your uric acid. We're looking at gut health. Do we have signs of insulin resistance? And really looking at your cortisol, your hormones, all of that. So if you want to learn more, head to my website, debbiepotts.net. Invest in your health. Don't wait until you have problems. Let's start now. So let's talk, and thanks for listening to the show today.